The word consistency, from the root word consistent, originated in the 1590s from the medieval Latin word consistentia, literally meaning a standing together or firmness of matter. It could also have originated from the Latin word consistentum, which is to stand firm, take a standing position, stop, or halt. The American Heritage Dictionary defines consistency as an agreement or logical coherence among things or parts. It is correspondence among related aspects, compatibility. It also means reliability or uniformity of successive results or events. The important question here is, what does this mean for us? For me, in the present moment, I find a closer relation to my idea of the word consistent in the Oxford English Dictionary's definition. The act of achieving a level of performance that does not vary greatly in quality over time. I want more consistency in my life. I've mastered the art of showing up every day when it comes to things like exercise, but these things haven't retained their quality. I was training in the gym 5 days a week easily. Now I struggle to do 3. I realized I didn't want my entire life to revolve around bodybuilding, so I sacrificed some of my consistency there to redirect into making videos and writing a book. If there's one thing I will stay consistent in until the day I die, it's writing. A divine gift to humanity, which all other major milestones rely upon. Storybooks, instruction manuals, schematics, blueprints, messages, warnings, biographies, scientific notes, journal scripts, and religious texts. Mankind flourished once it consistently wrote things down, and I will do the same. It is important to take care in what you choose to do consistently, because that is what you will inevitably become. If you consistently do the things that a professional fighter does, that is what you will end up becoming. If you consistently disappoint your spouse and children, you will be saddled with the label of a disappointing parent and partner, defined by both the world and yourself. Actions, of course, speak louder than words in this regard. A person can pretend all they want that there's something they're not, but when it comes to consistent actions, the deepest levels of ourselves will know the truth. This, of course, can be thought of in the reverse sense. If you start defining yourself as the thing you want to be, writer, athlete, salesman, what have you will be much more likely to stay consistent in the actions that grant you that status. I see life as a test. If you're stuck on any given problem, action will always be the answer, and consistent action will grant you an A+. We must have discernment in how we consistently act, or we may become something we were never meant to be. Many actions you can take in this world are extremely easy to be consistent with. Video games, pornography, alcohol, hard drugs, junk food, meaningless sex, and telling lies. A very easy way to differentiate the good habits from the bad is to ask yourself, is this something I can accidentally do every single day? Nobody consistently went to the gym and got ripped by accident. It took hard work, discipline, and concentration. They not only had to show up every day, they needed to gradually raise the quality of their exercises and diet until it was at the level necessary to achieve the physique they desired, and they had to keep that quality consistent. The things you want in your life are rarely, if ever, things you can just fall into. The few things I can really think of that are an exception to this rule are sleep and Wu Wei, the Chinese art of effortless action. Sleep doesn't really count because your body forces you to be consistent in that, and Wu Wei, by its very definition, is something you fall into without any effort at all. Nobody, even with immense talent, ever became accidentally great. They needed to decisively act. They made a decision to stay consistent with a difficult thing that would grant them what they desired out of life. This is something you not only can, but should contemplate deeply about your own life. What are you consistent in? Is any of it meaningful to you or worthwhile? Perhaps this line of questioning can lead you to the answer for why you've felt so empty inside lately. Are the things your life consists of things that you find appealing at all? What's your job? That's something that everyone needs to be consistent in. If your 8-hour-a-day job makes you miserable, then your waking life consists of mostly misery. Now you may ask, what do you mean mostly? 8 hours is only half the time I'm awake. If half of your conscious experience is consistent misery and meaningless toil, while the other half is dedicated to unfulfilling pursuits like social media and video games in the name of recharging, you'd be a fool to believe that this hollow feeling doesn't seep into the rest of your time. You would enjoy that game far more if you didn't know in the back of your mind that the world outside your games are miserable and pointless struggle. I've been there, on an embarrassing level. I had a good stretch of my life where Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was the highlight of my waking existence. The only other things I had was a job at a party store, daily weed smoking, my parents' growing impatience for me to finally move out of their house, and my lovely Sienna. I still to this day am amazed at how she's stuck with me through these embarrassing times. I didn't want a job. The idea of giving my time away to something I know I wouldn't like was too much. The party store already made me miserable, as those of you who work or have worked in retail will relate to on a visceral level. Despite only working there once or twice a week, I still dreaded going there. It made me feel like a level 1 human. No experience or anything at all going for him. I remember one time going into the bathroom at that place and just staring at myself in the mirror for 10 minutes straight. Stoned off the Benjamin rips I would take between the aisles when I was supposed to be restocking, I would look deeply into the windows to my soul, and boy, I tell ya, my soul spoke to me. What are you doing here? How did you let it get like this? How did you let yourself become this pathetic? A skinny 20-something with no earthly idea what to do, it felt like a lose-lose situation. Either get a full-time job and likely lose parts of my soul, or stay in perpetual childhood until my parents got sick and tired of supporting me as I wasted away. When I would partake in my favorite pastime, Smash Ultimate, even that would be an empty promise a lot of the time. Any Smash player who's consistently in Elite Smash or goes to tournaments should be able to relate to this. It's intensely satisfying when it's good, but cripplingly depressing and frustrating when it's bad. At a certain point, it's mostly bad. I was at the point where I would be winning games by a lot, and I still didn't feel good about it. It would never ever be hype enough for me. I needed more every single time I played, and that usually tied into just how dire my real life was. When I lost, my God, you'd imagine I'd regressed to that of a toddler. Seething anger would mutate into internal and external tantrums. I wouldn't be able to control my volume, even in my parents' house, because holy fuck, this NES is playing like a lame ass, or I just couldn't hit a tech to save my life. Playing with friends in the same room was an ordeal. The anger was mixed with profound embarrassment as I'd hear the seminal cheers when I got absolutely bodied. Even when I'd dominate, the reactions of my friends were the same, but the feeling I got for that was fickle compared to when I would lose. The first time I freaked out in front of them set the expectation. I never imagined myself as the type to rage at a video game in front of others, but there I was, tossing controllers that weren't even mine, and screaming at the top of my lungs because a big pink gorilla dunked me into oblivion. I once told a close friend of mine that I would kill him, with 100% seriousness in my voice and mind. The vibes completely shifted from a group of friends having fun to everyone witnessing in horror my impotent rage. Okay, let's not be negative, one of my friends says. Usually when I have one of these rage attacks, it's short-lived, and it never feels as satisfying as I think. I'm only left with pure humiliation. Not only had I lost, I had acted like an asshole in front of those I cared most about. I had made them uncomfortable in a setting that was supposed to be unwinding and fun. That was the reward I got for making Smash the most consistent thing I did. This phase of my life eventually took a turn for the better. I took action and decided I was going to consistently exercise for the rest of my life. This turn was thanks to a YouTuber I discovered named Hamza. Now I know everyone has their opinions on Hamza, but for a guy like me, back then, who had nothing going for him outside of a girl who stuck by him despite everything, Hamza was exactly who I needed to listen to at that time. I didn't realize the extent to which I was damaging my life until he put it into perspective for me. I adopted one of my favorite quotes by him. I can exercise 20 minutes every single day for the rest of my life. I reminded myself of this all the time, because it's true for everybody. Whether it's a brisk walk or a brutal leg day, everyone has the ability to do at least 20 minutes a day. Even if you're crippled, you can break a sweat and push yourself beyond what you're usually capable of. Even if that means you've raised your fucked up limb 2 inches off the ground instead of 1. As long as you're straining and it's difficult, you're exercising. I didn't hit every single day, obviously, but I gave myself grace. I had 10 and 20 pound dumbbells and a 2x4 on top of a couple boxes as my bench. The first thing I knew I had to focus on was my consistency. The workouts were grueling. I would drag my way through them while various other forms of dopamine would play on my TV, like Joe Rogan or Smash tournaments. Sometimes I would exercise as I played. I was that undisciplined, yet I needed to start where I knew I was, otherwise I would never stay consistent. Despite it being painful, exhausting, and embarrassing considering how weak I was, I knew I was doing the right thing every time I did it. Unlike Smash, I felt the righteousness of the activity in each rep. It gave me a sense I hadn't experienced in a very long time. Control. When the world tried keeping the weights on the ground, I said fuck that, and fought gravity to take them where I wanted them to go. My will started becoming more defined in my mind. Instead of this fleeting grasp for happy chemicals, it was an embrace of pain, a turning point towards what I knew needed to be done. After a hard workout, I would feel amazing. For the first time in so long, this underlying dread would be silenced, if only for a short while, before I had to pick up the iron once again. My constant stretched out misery became concentrated in one glorious hour where I could grunt and struggle it all away. Then once I knew the pain tax had been paid, I was done. Then I started to notice the difference in the way everyone would treat me. As a guy, if you're bigger, you have more respect from others. It's as simple as that. I was so down bad, I started to notice people would actually treat me like a human being, simply for having the beginner gains. It's a sad reality, but pretty privilege is real. My confidence skyrocketed, and the consistency was much easier. It became a positive feedback loop. I'd work out, the endorphins would kick in, I'd be treated much better by the average person I met, and I'm sure you can imagine, but my girlfriend became so much more attracted to me. She's a sweetheart, but I know our relationship would be so much harder if I didn't train. My confidence wouldn't be nearly what it is today, and I'm sure I'd eventually lose her, or at the very least, lose her respect. Eventually, I had to up the ante. The days of beginner gains were long gone, and I not only had to consistently train, but consistently raise the quality of my training over time. I bought my first kettlebell, which I recommend to anyone new to exercise. You can get an intense workout from just a kettlebell if you know what you're doing, and I enjoyed Pavel Tsatsulin's basic kettlebell training video, and I use the equipment to this day. 5 years later. Of course, I eventually got a gym membership. Then I started tracking my diet, and now I can look in the mirror and I won't immediately be embarrassed. I can confidently talk to people and hold eye contact. I'm not shameful around anyone who does the bare minimum at the gym anymore, and I can now bench 225, something that only 0.075% of the world population can do. I know this because I read it on the internet, and of course, the internet is always right. Even if it's probably not completely accurate, just having the knowledge that I can do something that most people can't is deeply satisfying and confidence boosting. I'd recommend you give it a shot. This is the reward I got for making lifting the most consistent thing I did. Now I'm approaching a new phase of my life. I still exercise, of course, but as I said earlier, I'm taking a step back from the intensity of my lifts to save the bandwidth for writing and video making. Now I will learn what the reward is for making that the most consistent thing I do in my life. If you're finding yourself struggling to stay consistent in something you know is right, try to see it this way. Consistency is like slowly opening a present. I want to know what's inside. The only way to find out is to slowly unwrap that gift for yourself. So go now. Don't let me stop you. Throughout this video, you probably had something pop into your head that you know would be good for you if you could just do it consistently. I'll defer you to Hamza's advice. Whatever it is, you can probably do it or practice it for at least 20 minutes a day, every single day for the rest of your life. So, get on it. Like, right now, okay? I don't know what you're still doing here. It's kind of weirding me out, okay? Go away. Do something better than watch this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.